Okay, guys, this channel is blowing up. Thank y'all all so much for the support. Y'all have been absolutely smashing that like button, and we've been getting so many new subscribers as of late. So I want to give everyone a massive, massive thank you that has gone down there and shown some support. And also, I want to give a thank you for the people who have been leaving comments, telling me things that I've said wrong, telling me reasons why I'm stupid. And I am being serious about this, guys. Please do not hesitate at all. I am completely transparent in saying that I probably don't know as much as a lot of people watching this video. I probably am a little bit behind the eight ball, and I can come out here and I can just generate some conversation to get started, but it doesn't end there. What I want to happen is I really want this audience to grow to a point where y'all can communicate with each other just all the time in that comment section, where if I say something stupid, y'all can go down there, y'all can let me know, you can let everyone else watching the video know, hey, don't listen to Mason about this because this is what he got wrong. And I think that will create a much more constructive way that we can go through and find success this fantasy baseball season. But that's about all I have to say, besides making sure y'all are dropping a like and subscribing to the channel, as it truly does help us. And what we're going to be doing in this video is we are going to be going through and we are going to be looking at some hitters that have had a very tough start to 2021. Now, I'm going to acknowledge a couple things here. Yes, it's spring training. Yes, this does not matter for these players. And also, it's an extremely small sample size. So you're not going to be seeing these rough starts and going, okay, I can't draft these players under any circumstances. But what we need to be doing is we need to go through and start tracking. We need to make sure that we go, okay, we had some question marks around this player circling his X, Y, and Z problems. What is happening? Are we seeing those problems continue to come up? Are we seeing him try to correct them? And that is what we are going to be trying to focus on. But the first player that we are going to be bringing up here is going a little bit later in fantasy baseball drafts right now. This is going to be Miguel Sano, who is the first baseman for the Minnesota Twins, and he is the 184th player in terms of his average draft position, and he is the 20th first baseman that is going off the board. And now this is not for those Yahoo formats. I'm actually drawing this from NFC, the people that are putting up a significant amount of money to get into these fantasy baseball leagues. The people who really know what they're doing probably know what they're doing way more than I do. So, of course, we are going to be deciding to use that data. And when we are looking at Miguel Sano, I mean, his spring training has been disappointing in that he has seen 35 total at-bats, and his batting average is sitting down there at a 114. His on-base percentage is at a 184, and his slugging is all the way down at 200 flat. So clearly, this is a horrendous start. Clearly, this is also a very small sample that we can't take everything away from. So what we want to do is we want to go look at the last season where we had a very large sample to draw. And y'all know, because of this, generally this year, I want to be overlooking 2020 because 2020 had so many moving variables where it's kind of hard to draw anything from it. And it was a shortened season, and we know that with those small samples, it's really hard to value them the same as you would see a hitter having 550 total at-bats. But the problem here is we don't have a large sample in 2019 or 2020. In 2019, we actually had 380 at-bats where the batting average was sitting at 247, the on-base percentage was at 346, and the slugging was at 576. So at least the slugging is high. That's the one thing that we are going to want to see. But because the sample for 2019 wasn't past that 500, 550 at-bats mark, what I want to actually be doing is I actually want to throw in 2020 just for this one scenario, because if you look at both of these seasons together, then it's as if you have one full season that we can draw from. And we throw 2020 onto this, and in 2020, we had 186 at-bats to look at, and the average was even lower than it was in 2019. The on-base percentage was drastically lower, down there at 278, and the slugging was at 478. So here, with Miguel Sano, I mean, there are multiple question marks surrounding him. The fact that he really hasn't had a good year in a very long time. The fact that in 2020, he was one of the most disappointing players in fantasy baseball. And now we throw in the fact that he has a slow start to 2021. So usually I'm completely fine overlooking the slow start to spring training and saying, you know what, if you like the player, draft him anyway. But in this case, I think that you want to be a little bit hesitant and maybe you want to be a little bit lower than most. All right, so now let's get our next player up here. This is going to be the catcher for the Yankees, Gary Sanchez, who's going 158th overall. And I understand that you're not necessarily going to be expecting your catcher to come out here with fantastic batting statistics. That's not necessarily the nature of the position. But still, he is the 8th catcher off the board right now in high-stakes fantasy baseball drafts. And I will say, first off, if you're drafting someone from the Yankees, obviously that's a lineup that you want to target. We talk about this all the time. What you want in fantasy baseball is you want those hitters that are going to be in lineups that should be racking up runs, because if that's the case, if you're targeting the Los Angeles Dodgers hitters, just say, you understand that your hitter, whenever he steps up to the plate, is most likely going to be in a scenario where there are runners on base compared to a team like the Pirates, where they're going to have a very hard time generating runs. And B, we understand that when he gets on base, hopefully the hitters afterwards are going to be a little bit more likely to be able to advance him and get him to score. And C, we know that he is also most likely going to be seeing more plate appearances, as they should be able to get through the lineup a few more times. But anyway, outside the fact that he is playing in that lineup that you would want to target, right now Gary Sanchez has had a very tough start to 2021, where he is right now having a batting average of 216 with 37 at-bats. The on-base percentage is down there at 275, and the slugging is down there at 459. Now, another troublesome thing here is when we go through and when we try to look at his last full season, we don't have one in quite a while. I mean, the last year that we had from Gary Sanchez was in 2019, where in 2019 you had Gary Sanchez with 396 at-bats, so he's not really eclipsing the 500, 550 mark that you would like to see. So what we are going to be wanting to do is we are going to be wanting to throw in 2020 as well. I know this is something we've avoided doing the majority of this offseason now, but with a few players, I think it's going to make sense to throw in both. And in 2019, with his 396 at-bats, Gary Sanchez had a 232 average, a 316 on-base percentage, and a 525 slugging. Now, I know this isn't necessarily exciting, but I will say, guys, it's at the catcher position. What really are you wanting here? But what's even worse is if you go to 2020, these already poor numbers take a dive, where with 156 at-bats, his batting average dives down to 147. His on-base percentage is at 253, and his slugging percentage is at 365. So I think right now, Gary Sanchez as the 8th catcher off the board, even at a position where it's going to be a little bit harder to get those guys that are going to be able to come through with every category, maybe it's still an avoid for us. All right, so now our last player that we're going to be bringing up is someone I'm a little bit more excited about. This is going to be Javier Baez, the shortstop for the Chicago Cubs. Only 28 years old. We know he's right in his prime. He's going a lot earlier than these other two players, I will admit. He's going 65 overall right now in high-stakes drafts. But here, through spring training, he's had a very hard time. With 41 at-bats, he's had a batting average under 200. He's had an on-base percentage under 240, and a slugging percentage at 366. Now, I will say here, it's a completely different scenario than the players we talked previously, because we actually have that full season. You have in 2019 him with 531 at-bats. We're completely fine using that number. A 281 average, a 316 on-base percentage, and a 531 slugging. Now, if you go to 2020, yes, it was very disappointing. He only had a 203 average, he had a 238 on-base percentage, and a 360 slugging. But in this case, I'm completely fine overlooking 2020 because we know that year was crazy, and we have the larger sample that we can draw from in 2019. So I will say Javier Baez is the one player on this list. While, yes, he's had a rough start to spring training so far, I'm still completely fine going out there and targeting him in drafts because the last time we had him with a full season, we really liked what we got. Okay, now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all got something from it. As always, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And yeah, that's it. I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.